Live from a bunker in the heart of the Ozarks, a podcast that's not on a diet, we're just crying 5 times a day. It's Sif Pop. Welcome to Sif Pop Weekly, streaming live most Saturday mornings, or possibly Friday afternoons, or available to download later in your podcast feed. Unless, of course, you're a patron.
Patrons get perks.
Patrons get those perks.
Bronze Rock.
I'm your host, Aaron Dicer, and he's not sorry he charged you for free snacks. It's Andrew Ormsby, ladies and gentlemen.
I would do that. Ahoy!
And each week we'll chat about movies, TV, and whatever else from the pop culture universe is on our minds. And please welcome our guest this week. She's hiding a doll in her room, and we're not sure where she got it. It's Susan Comyab-Stevens!
Yay! Thanks for having me.
You may want to clean that doll up a little bit. There's some gross stuff going on.
Yeah, I think there's some bugs in it.
Yeah, something going on in there. Susan, great to have you back. I was just talking with somebody contacted me on Twitter and just said, have Susan on more. I love Susan. She's so great on the show. So
that
yeah,
is so sweet. Wow,
yeah.
Thank you to that person.
Absolutely. We agree. We love having you on the show. So thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
It's interesting this week because you come back to talk about 2 movies we actually saw together for the first time, when has that ever happened?
I know. I was really excited about that. I was like, oh, these are the movies we saw in New York together. So
yeah. So
cool
yeah,
experience for sure.
Wait, did Netflix have like a double screening or something?
They did.
They did.
Yeah.
How
they had a
fun.
double event. Lost Daughter was first, and then the premiere of Don't Look Up in New York.
The world premiere, yeah.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
I like the way they did that too, though. I liked how they knocked out like 2 movies in 3 days. It was really cool.
Yeah. So in that same weekend, I actually knocked out Licorice Pizza while I was in town, since it was showing there in New York. So yeah, it was a nice big 3 for me. So anyways, we're excited to talk about those movies. I'm also excited about the Best Ever Challenge today. We're going to do Best Ever Female Directorial Debuts. And this, of course, is in honor of Maggie Gyllenhaal's directorial debut with The Lost Daughter. Kind of see where it ranks among some of the greats. So we'll do that. And then, of course, we'll do some Buried Treasure as well. It's an exciting one. Let's get right into it. Let's kick it off by talking about Don't Look Up. 2 low-level astronomers, upon discovering that a meteor will strike the Earth in 6 months, go on a media tour to try to warn the world, but find an unreceptive and unbelieving populace. This comes to us from director Adam McKay. In stars, well, let's just say everybody.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence, Leonardo DiCaprio, Meryl Streep, Jonah Hill, Cate Blanchett, Mark Rylance, Tyler Perry, Timothy Chalamet, Ron Perlman, Ariana Grande. I could probably keep going on. Himesh Patel. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. What a cast. This is from Netflix. Lots of varying polarized reactions on this one. But what did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Andrew, kick us off.
I liked it.
Nice.
I think I'm straight down the narrow there. Just liked it.
Okay. Susan, what about you?
I loved it.
Yeah. Love it when people love movies.
Yep. This one was one to love for sure.
I loved it as well. Probably low side of loved it. Although my opinions on this one, They do kind of go back and forth a little bit, but I think they always end up, even when I start to convince myself, well, maybe it's not as good as I think, they always still end up going back to where I'm like, no, it's a really funny, good movie.
Yeah.
Susan, I'll let you start with The Firm Loved It. Tell me some of the things you loved about it.
Well, honestly, I think it was one of the funniest films that I guess it was just recently to 2021, but I
Mhm.
hadn't laughed that hard from a movie. Maybe there's like 3 films in 2021 that made me like
Mhm.
almost like hurt laughing. It is so funny, but also I am a sucker for movies that tell you, like, kind of teach you a lesson, like, especially you're going to talk about like kind of political things. Like, I'd rather
Mhm.
have that translated to me through comedy.
Mhm.
That's I guess that's why I always love like SNL's spoofs of presidents.
Right.
Like, I
Mhm.
don't want to watch like CNN or anything like that. I'd rather have what Will Ferrell play George W. Bush and explain the
Right,
press
right, right.
conference to
Yeah.
me. I'd much rather have that. So this was like right up my alley. I loved Meryl Streep's I guess spoof on a female Trump, if you want to call
Mhm.
it that. I don't really
Sure.
know if that's but also how timely it was with the way the world handles a crisis.
Mhm.
I felt, and I know they were talking about climate change, but that's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, it goes hand in hand with that and the pandemic. But I don't know, it hit home, but it was also just really funny. I mean, I think I can't say it's as good as The Big Short, but it's right after it for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because it does have this satirical edge to it that is almost hard to translate to a modern audience. Like if you go watch like Doctor Strangelove, right? This is a movie that is hardcore satire. Like everybody is acting
Yeah.
over the top. The message is over the top because it's satire. But a lot of the complaints I hear about Don't Look Up is that, oh, it's too on the nose, it's too over the top, it's, everything's so. And I'm just like, have we lost our ability to understand satire? Have we lost our
Right.
ability just to laugh at the over the top ridiculousness of ourselves? And
The answer is yes, Aaron.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think,
Well,
A lot of people have.
that's what a movie is. That's why I can't get over that. People are complaining. I'm like, but it's a satire. What's what
Yeah.
it's supposed to be. If it was trying to be a drama, I could get you, but that's
yeah.
what the intention is.
And even more than any of his other movies, right? Because for the first time, we're dealing with complete fiction. I mean, in his like serious movies, because his other two were Big Short and Vice, both based on very real things that happened. And so it's harder to play in that satirical world when you're doing, real life, because then you're going to want to compare to the actual. What's nice about an actual satire like this that's completely fictional is it allows you to look at ourselves and go, oh man, we are a mess. And that's what this movie does. And you're right, absolutely right about how the topic came from climate change. I think, he wanted a way to satirize a metaphor for climate change. And so he used this asteroid coming towards us or whatever. But it applies to so much of what we've seen even before the pandemic, politically, polarization, like all that kind of stuff. The dependence on social media and tech, wizards and like all this stuff it's just really a perfect, I think, satirical look at just, modern culture. And so, yeah, I think that's why it works a lot for me as well.
Yeah.
Andrew, what about you? What are some of your first thoughts?
You know me, I always got to start with performances.
Sure.
Jennifer
Okay.
Lawrence is great.
Yeah.
I mean, her pleading for the world, please listen, is so convincing. And it's funny seeing Leonardo DiCaprio play a character we've never seen him play before. A very timid, quiet, nervous guy, and how his character evolves as the movie progresses is so interesting. How like the luxuriousness that he gets infected by, it's really fun. And of course, Meryl Streep and Kate Blanchett are being Meryl Streep and Kate Blanchett. I mean, they're just the best. So yeah, I loved all the performances in this movie. I don't think anybody brought anything less than their A game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Leo especially is kind of tuning that dial throughout the movie in some really interesting ways. He has his broadcast news, speech or whatever, where he yells and it's perfect. And in fact, when we were at the premiere, the place broke out in applause after that speech, and you could see Meryl Streep kind of like elbowing Leo, like, hey, look at that, look, you did it, buddy, like that kind of thing. So, he has his big moment. But yeah, I think down the line, the performances are really fun. I do feel like Jonah Hill kind of is elevating the comedy more than anybody else in this, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But he almost feels like, and it could be even considered a negative for some, he almost feels like he's in a little bit of a different movie than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because it really is kind of that next level McKay improv, throw out funny one-liners, kind of thing. So yeah, but I loved it. I thought the performances were great.
I thought Jonah Hill was so funny in this movie.
Yeah.
Just like the scene where he like asks Jennifer Lawrence, he's like, do you want to come? And she's like, yes. And he just shuts the door on her. Or like the way he nags on her, he's like, thanks for dressing up. Like, it's just, it's so good.
Yeah.
The FBI doesn't do the bags. That's the CIA. But I made the FBI do it specifically for you.
That was funny.
The returning gag of you mentioned it earlier, but the snacks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how that's it continuously came back, and it never failed to be funny. It was funny every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the world's ending, and that's what they got to focus on.
And she's telling it to Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah.
It's like awesome.
I have a couple more shout outs acting wise. Chalamet's one of them, since you bring him up. I also have to say, as a person of faith who grew up, in the church and all that kind of stuff, I loved this portrayal because it wasn't, and McKay's really good at this. He's really good at being even-handed with his satire and his caricaturizations. I think I said that wrong completely, but he's he's so good with that this character, who is this kind of over-the-top example of maybe how a Christian would act during, something like this, or a Christian teenager who's into skateboarding kind of thing. And then he gives them this prayer moment at the end, and it's so moving and touching and meaningful. And it's just like, you go, McKay. You kind of, understand how to play that balance in a really interesting way. Yeah. The other part of the movie that I think is just aces is the Tyler Perry, Cate Blanchett talk show.
Yes.
It is such a perfect send-up satire of morning shows, TV, partner shows. You're going to come on and talk about the end of the world, but could you please, can we have some fun with this? Can we talk about the comet hitting my ex-wife's house, that kind of stuff? And it's just like, it's so perfect. Yeah, the more I love this, one of the reasons I love doing the show is that in talking about these movies, I really start to understand how much I like it, how much I don't like it, those kind of things. And I really like this movie. I think it's a really fun watch. I really do.
I even kudos to Ariana Grande too. I mean, I know she had just like some like her moment when Leo DiCaprio tells her, I'm really sorry about your breakup, and I'm not gonna say she curses at him, but it was the delivery of it was really good.
And Jennifer Lawrence's eyes just get so big, like, whoa, okay.
She did. And
she also wrote part of that song. Like she improv'd a lot of the hilarity of that song, which is, really funny.
That is my vote for best song, by the way.
Nice.
I am that song is hilarious. We need a freaking, I know it never happens at the Oscars, but we need a comical song to win.
Yeah.
It happens just very rarely,
Yeah.
I think Blame Canada might be the last one that I can really remember.
Oh,
sure.
Is that the
South Park, yeah.
Actually, I think my favorite scene in the entire movie is Mark Rylance trying to put DiCaprio in his place with his theory of I know how you're gonna die and it's so insignificant, that I couldn't even remember. That whole scene is just like, yeah, that scene is like, oh man, Rylance, I didn't think that you deserved an Oscar before, but if you're ever gonna get an Oscar again, for this I'd be okay with. His portrayal of that Steve Jobs, Silicon Valley, kind of human, but not quite,
Elon Musk.
Musk.
Yeah.
It was great. Absolutely great. And he was okay. Here's another pro I got to give for the movie. It took shots at everybody.
Right.
This movie could, I could see a very, convincing argument that this movie is very liberal, it's very left-sided, but if you pay attention, he's taking shots at everybody. He's taking shots at Hollywood and how, they got to, keep everything light and funny. He's taking shots at Silicon Valley and, the tech world. He's not only, shooting at how this movie portrays, the right as, whatever the left scientists say, we just got to say the opposite. They're saying look up, we're saying don't look up,
Yeah.
So, yeah, kudos for taking shots at everybody. Yeah. Because everybody's, at the end of the day, an idiot.
Do you feel like, because there has been a lot of critic backlash. I think last I checked, it had in the 50s on Rotten Tomatoes, somewhere in that range.
By that too.
The audience response seems to be a little bit better. What do you think that comes down to? Is it just? And I know I mentioned the satire part before. Is the reason satire is hard right now because there is so much actual ridiculousness that seems to be going on?
And it doesn't feel like satire.
Right. So it feels like a little closer to reality than we're comfortable with. Yeah. I wonder if that's part of it. Like maybe that's why satire is so hard right now, is because the world itself seems so over the top and satirical sometimes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if part of it's that, but
I think that's part of it. I've heard critique that they think it's too preachy too, which I don't agree with, but I don't know. I feel like it's just doing what its job. I don't think it's I think it's just trying to make a point. Like it's just being self-aware of everything. But
if you realize the metaphor for this movie being about, climate control or climate change and, global warming and stuff, and how they're like, it wouldn't matter if there was a meteor heading to destroy the earth. There would still be idiots out there who wouldn't believe it. And you could shout from the top of your lungs and, nobody would care. So those scenes where it might seem preachy is just them saying, yeah, we're being preachy, but that's exactly how it would happen. I believe it 100%.
That's kind of what's a little scary about the movie too, is that this exact thing, like I don't know if that would play out any different. That would be exactly how it would play out in this world.
Yeah. Well,
I got
anything
negative.
else? Yeah.
Negative.
What do you want to talk about in the negative area?
I think this movie's too long.
Okay.
It felt really long. While I was watching it, I was like,
it's 2:18.
Yeah, 2:18, but it felt a lot longer than that. It really did.
Did it really?
Like, it really did. As much as I love that Ariana Grande song, I'm like, oh, so we're gonna listen to the whole thing. Okay, and the whole don't get me wrong, I love the whole Ron Perlman, crazy, ex-military guy. A lot of that could have been cut.
Sure.
There's a lot of scenes where I felt that they were really just bashing our head against the wall with the message. Like you're trying to double down on the point you've already made. You can move on to something else now. But I was entertained the whole time. I got to say that I was entertained the whole time, but it did feel a little long.
Yeah,
I feel like that's my number one complaint every Oscar movie, though. I'm always
around this time
always
of
over
year.
2 hours. Like it's just
It's to the point now. If it's to the point now, if I see something 90 minutes or under, I'm like, I'm voting for you.
Belfast.
I get so excited.
Right, like
I get
Belfast,
so excited.
or there's a French film I just watched, Petite Maman, which is 79 minutes long. I'm just like, thank you. It's beautiful. It's the same person who did Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So yeah. But yeah, it's good stuff. But no, I'm totally with you. Every time it comes to award season, it's like 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes. House of Gucci, 5 hours and 15 minutes or whatever. So yeah, I totally get that.
That takes shots fired to a whole new meaning.
Anything else, guys, that you want to talk about with Don't Look Up?
Mid-credit scene.
Yeah, there is a mid-credit scene, and it is hilarious. I also was not expecting the mid-credit scene. So yeah, that was really, really interesting. But yeah, it was definitely one of those. It was funny. Somebody was saying they were looking to see if they could watch Don't Look Up with their kids or whatever. And they're like, this says there's like a bunch of nudity in it. And I was like, there's no nudity in Don't Look Up. Oh, the mid-credits scene. Nope. Actually, there's a lot of nudity.
Do we see full frontal of stuff?
I think so. Yes.
Gosh, I forgot. I remember like behind, but I cannot remember full frontal. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. I'm not trying to be ageist or anything, but there was a couple of people there I could have done without seeing full frontal.
All right, we can move on. Let's head in to chat about The Lost Daughter. A woman's seaside vacation takes a dark turn when her obsession with a young mother forces her to confront secrets from her past. The Lost Daughter is Maggie Gyllenhaal, as mentioned, directing her very first movie. Stars Olivia Colman, Dakota Johnson, and Jessie Buckley. You've also got Ed Harris in there, Peter Sarsgaard, Paul Mescal in there as well. So yeah, another Netflix film that's just recently out. What did you guys think? Did you like it, love it, dislike it, hate it, or it was just okay? Susan, you get to start us off on this one.
I think I would say like low loved it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Andrew, what about you?
Low side of okay, close to didn't like it.
Whoa. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. I am on the high side of liked it, maybe even stretching into the low side of loved it, but I'm going to stay in liked it. I'm going to stay in the high side of liked it. I really think there's a lot here that's interesting. Susan, you seem to enjoy it the most, so why don't you tell us a little bit about what you liked about The Lost Daughter?
Tell me why I'm wrong. Let's do it.
Yeah, I think it really helped listening to the press conference on this, just hearing Maggie Gyllenhaal explain the movie. Like, she is just a wonderful speaker, passionate, and just what she did with, I guess, the actual story. But I thought it was interesting. I think well, one, I love how it almost feels like a thriller. Like, it keeps you on your edge. Like, you always feel like something worse is going to happen. Kind of reminds me of, well, it has kind of the same tone of a, like, I don't want to go as far as to say Parasite. I know there's something else that even reminds me of that felt very like, actually a little bit more of like Promising Young Woman vibes, where you feel
sure
more like that maybe. But it's very like I don't know, she manages to keep it very tense the whole way through. So even though this movie was long, in my opinion, too, I was never bored because of the tensity. But I really find it fascinating to see a study of a woman who, I mean, a lot of moms, I feel like, want to like pull their hair out, leave their kids. Like, it's a thing that is always, any mother probably feels like that at some point. And I really loved watching both Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley kind of, you feel for them in some ways. Like, I don't know. I think I love like not knowing where I stand with them. Like, I don't know who's, because I've had people tell me like Olivia Colman's character is a horrible person. But then I'm like, well, is she though? Because I don't know. I like that it left me wondering what was right or wrong here. And I mean, obviously it left me thinking. It had me conflicted a lot. I don't know. I just think Maggie Gyllenhaal did an amazing job with this story.
Yeah, I think you put your finger on something that I really liked about it, which is the nuance. I think there is a real nuance here about the decisions that the people are making. There's beyond the fact that it's just this direct and honest look at womanhood and especially
Yeah.
motherhood. Unlike many that I can't think of many movies, if any, that really deal with, the grittiness and reality of being a mom like this movie does, and kind of what that can do to you and how to play with your identity and your psyche and all that kind of stuff. But because we're cutting from Olivia Colman in her younger version, Jessie Buckley, we also get a really interesting character study on, how she became who she is. So all of that adds up to exactly what you're saying. I don't think you're meant to go, this is a bad person. I also
Right.
don't think you're meant to go, this is a good person. I
Yeah.
think what you're meant to go is, this is a person.
Yeah.
This is a human. And
Mhm.
and I felt that to my core watching this movie, was
Yes.
just, this is a fully realized human being that we are seeing a peek into their lives.
Mhm.
And man, there's just some really interesting, fun Olivia Colman moments here, choices made in the movie of, like, she's asked at one point by this big Italian family to leave her beach chair, right? And she
Yeah.
just says no. And like, I'm
Mhm.
going, what is going, like, it's just, and it was just a simple, kind of like, no, I'm not moving. And you're just not expecting that from the stereotypical older English woman. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Mhm.
just, so there's just, I don't know. I really enjoyed kind of the nuance in this movie and kind of the things that are happening in that
There's
regard. So
And when you say that too, there are so many scenes like that that I feel like we have been in, just like even the scene where she's in the theater and the kids are
yes.
acting up, and she does things that I feel like, just like that scene that you mentioned, where of course I would love to be like, no, I'm not gonna move. Like, why should I move? But of course I would move. I would by
Right.
all means.
Yes. Yeah.
Why would I not move? But
Right.
you almost give her props for doing that. And same with
Right.
like the movie theater. I'm like, oh my God. Like I would just leave, but I'm sure, like, I wouldn't want to stick
Mhm.
around after complaining, but I don't know. I love there's so many, like, they're not big moments, but they're very realistic moments. Even when she goes to Jessie Buckley's character goes to the hotel and she's just so excited to go on a work trip away from her family and order a bottle of champagne in her room.
Mhm.
Like, that's all she
Yeah.
wants to do.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so hard. That's why she wrote her character. I mean, I know it was based off the book, but it just, her characters, you have so much empathy for them.
Hmm. Yeah. Andrew, we haven't heard from you. Go ahead.
Mhm.
What are some of your thoughts on The Lost Daughter?
She's a bad person. I actually do think she's a bad person. But I'll say this. I think Jessie Buckley's the bad person.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, it's interesting because who that person grew up into in Olivia Colman, I'm left wondering how much of that person we see in Jessie Buckley is still there. Because as time goes on, people change,
Mhm.
and whenever I'm watching Olivia Colman, I see remnants of her younger self, Lita's younger self, but I'm also seeing somebody new, and somebody who's seeked redemption or tried to better themselves. It's really interesting because there's a bunch of times in this movie where I'm going, is there anybody I'm supposed to root for? Like, this
Mhm.
family is annoying as all get, but at the same time, now that you're showing me everything about Lita, I'm like, I don't know if I can root for her either. It's fascinating. My big pro for the movie, and I'll say this: for a directorial debut, Maggie Gyllenhaal's knowledge of camera work and how to frame a shot it's extraordinary. It's a beautifully shot film. The scenes, the camera angles, the way that she works with tempo and stuff. There's a scene where Olivia Colman and Ed Harris are dancing, and just the way that scene is shot, it made, like, for a second, it made it feel like the world was bigger for her. But as soon as that family shows up, it got really claustrophobic. And that's really good directing right there. So
Yeah.
There's also these choices she's making that Susan, you were talking about the thriller aspect of this.
Yeah.
There's suspense choices she's making that aren't easy to pull off.
Mm-mm.
You know, I mentioned the doll in the intro, but you know, there's this real moment where it's like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like hide it. You know, like like
Yes.
some, and it's just a doll. It's just a doll, but it becomes this like central turmoil about what it means to, you know, be a mother, and like, you know, this it feels like her life is in danger, you know, and it's just so interesting to be able to make that happen, to pull that off. But yeah, there's some really great choices that she's making. I'm excited for Maggie Gyllenhaal to transition into being a director. I would love for that.
Yeah.
I love her as an actor too. I think she's a great actor, and I don't necessarily want that to stop, but man, there's some real talent here for sure.
And I know she mentioned too at the press conference that the book is actually, there was a lot of voiceover or something, like it would, or was narrated or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of
like that.
narration in the book. Yeah.
I'm really glad she didn't do that with the movie. I'm glad it wasn't Olivia Colman narrating the film.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, that was a great decision to just have a lot of like looks. It's a lot, because a lot of it is Olivia Colman just observing, and I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts, Andrew?
No post-credit scene.
Did you think Dakota Johnson was a good person?
Nobody was. I'll just say it was. I didn't see anybody who was clearly who I was supposed to root for. Like Dakota Johnson was more like, she's tied to this family of supposedly bad people, therefore I'm on edge around her. You know, it wasn't like she had done anything like arbitrarily evil that I was like, oh, she's terrible. You know, like the young kids, you know, like, oh, I hate those kids. I hate them with every fiber of my being, you know.
Oh yeah.
It was easy to hate them. But no, it was just like, if I didn't like root for that person or like them, I was on edge around them. Like everybody. Like I was on edge around Ed Harris. I was on for different reasons. I was on edge around different people. I forget the name of the young guy, Will, who was the like one of the young caretakers of the island and stuff. Like at the beginning of the movie, he's like, "Oh, these are bad people," and then an hour later, he's Kenny Loggins riding the danger zone with, you know, and I'm like,
I know.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Earlier, you were saying these are bad people, and I'm like,
well, it's amazing the power that attraction can have over people and the decisions that they make. But yes, yeah, I hear you.
I want to give a shout out also to I think it's Joe or Oliver Jackson Cohen, who played Tony, the husband. He has like 3 lines in this movie, but every single time he was on screen, the tension was elevated. Like he just had something about him, like that I was like, okay, he could at any minute something could happen, and that's just a presence right there. That was really good acting.
Yeah. He was
also,
good,
the soundtrack for this movie is amazing. I want the soundtrack for this movie.
Yeah. No, it's really, really good.
It is good.
Susan, did you have something else you were going to say?
I was just going to say there's like a moment, maybe I won't reveal it, but a final scene with Dakota Johnson and Olivia Colman that I didn't expect coming, and when it does, I was like, oh, jeez. That's what this like tensity was like.
That's where we were headed towards, yeah.
Because but it was like I don't know, I loved it too.
Yeah. I think this is really great filmmaking, if nothing else, and I think I can definitely see your side, Andrew, and I think I even put in my review that I can see this coming off as a little bit morose and a little bit slow for some people. But I think if you're engaged in the characters themselves, I think it hangs together pretty well. And it just doesn't sound like you were able to connect to any of the characters in a way that you really cared about what was going on, which I totally get.
Yeah, it was that, but it was also the fact that I was like, they're forcing the stakes to be higher than they should be, if that makes sense. Like the whole thing with the doll, I'm like, this is being a way bigger deal than it ever needed to be. And that just made it that much more difficult for me to dive into this world and have anything about it be believable. I know there's metaphors abound, it's the metaphor, but at the same time, I'm like, I would appreciate it if the metaphor was just done a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah. I will never eat fruit from an Airbnb I stay in ever again.
Oh, gross. That was disgusting. Yeah. I think, but I do think the cicada would have freaked me out more.
Yeah. Yeah. And the movie is, again,
cicadas abound where we live. So it's like they're everywhere.
I don't
the
like
movie is just, it's full of those like interesting choices, where it's like, like makes your skin crawl, kind of. And I think it's part of what keeps you on edge. Also,
I would really be interested to see Maggie Gyllenhaal do like a not a horror film, but something closer to like It Follows or something like that. Something in that vein. I'd be like, you know what? I really want to see her do something because obviously she can build tension.
Yeah.
She knows how to build tension in a movie.
She does.
Yeah. Is Jessie Buckley one of the most talented actors working today? I feel like she's incredible. Yeah.
She is so good. She, in my opinion, does even better than Olivia Colman as Lita. But I mean, that's who they're pitching for Olivia. But I think Jessie, like, she has the moments. Like, she has the moments with the kids. So that's who made me like struggle with who's wrong or right here. I mean, I'm never going to condone a mother just leaving their child, but it's just, I don't know. I felt for her. She was so good.
I think after seeing her back to back in, I'm thinking of Ending Things, which I loved. Fargo. She's incredible in Fargo.
What season was she in Fargo?
This latest season.
Oh, I haven't seen.
She was in Fargo, and then in this, I'm just like, I think Jessie Buckley is going to be amazing. And yes, Chernobyl as well. She was incredible in too.
Yeah.
And of course, Doolittle as her, major role there. Just kidding.
But no, honestly, I'm thinking of Ending Things. That's just a tour de force of like how to act. Going, with Jesse Plemons. I mean, that's whenever you have a director like Charlie Kaufman, you really have to rely on the performances to get you through because a lot of that stuff is just really, really metaphorical. And if you're not engaged by the acting, you might be close to turning it off.
Oh, she was in Judy as well. I had forgotten.
She
that.
was? Who was she in Judy?
I
hated that movie.
She was Rosalind.
Rosalind Wilder.
Yeah, Rosalind Wilder.
Yeah.
She doesn't need to be credited for that.
All right, we'll leave that one out of it next time we talk about it. Well, there you go. That would be The Lost Daughter on Netflix. Recommend from Susan and I, and for Andrew, probably just
go for it.
If you've got Netflix, go ahead.
If there's nothing else, go ahead.
It is. I mean, that is kind of the beauty of the streamers. Sometimes it's just like, I'm already paying, $15 a month. Might as well check out what they, got. Doesn't cost me anything extra. So yeah, The Lost Daughter is on Netflix. Don't look up on Netflix as well. I think that's a recommend from all three of us.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Before we head on to the best ever challenge, just a reminder that you can support Sif Pop through the Patreon. You can be a Sif Pop member at patreon.com/SifPop. Basically, just go there, check out the different levels, support however you like, and know that it's very much appreciated. Some of the fun things we do for our members include a bonus podcast every single week for our members at certain levels. There's also fun video hangouts, all that kind of stuff. So if you want to go check that out, again, that is at patreon.com/SifPop, and we'd love to have you along. This week on the bonus podcast, we talked about Adam McKay's career and a little bit about Vice and Big Short and all the other comedies that McKay has done. So again, you can check that out at patreon.com/SifPop. All right, moving on to the best ever challenge, best ever female directorial debut movies. We will go number 5 to number 1. As always, you can trump the choice if you have it. at a higher place. And we'll wait to talk about it until then. So I'll kick us off at number 5. Number 5 for me is Kelly Freeman Craig's directorial debut, The Edge of 17. I loved this movie. I think it's great stuff. This one, I think, unfortunately slipped under the radar. I know it came out around the end of the year when a lot of Oscar stuff was coming out. But man, this I think was the movie that was like, oh, Haley Steinfeld's going to be a superstar because she is absolutely amazing in this. Woody Harrelson in here as well. But yeah, an incredible directorial debut. Lots of fun, very interesting, also meaningful, great coming of age movie. Edge of 17. That's my number 5.
Nice.
Andrew, what do you got at number 5?
I'm going to go with Sophia Coppola in The Virgin Suicides.
Good choice.
Oh,
Good choice.
man, you guys have some good choices right at the gate.
Very hypnotic movie. She really sets in stone her style of making movies, which is really her own. You can see it in this movie. You can see it in Lost in Translation. Great performances by everybody. Kirsten Dunst, Josh Hartnett. It's unlike any other movie for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Susan, what's your number 5?
I'm gonna say really quick on that Virgin Suicides. The first time I watched it, I hated it, and then I
Really?
watched it again, like I don't even know, 5 or 6 years later, and then I understood it. And I was like, oh wow, this is genius.
Yeah.
So that's a good choice. I went with Regina King's One Night in Miami.
Trump.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to trump that.
I figured I would be.
But yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
So on to our number 4s. My number 4 is Brenda Chapman's directorial debut, co-directed with Steve Hickner. The Prince of Egypt was the first movie that she directed.
Oh man!
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So one of my favorite movies. We've talked about it many, many times. I think it's a beautiful film. I think the voice performances are great. I think it would absolutely 100% be cast differently if it were today. That's important to say. This cast is very whitewashed. The voice cast is. But it is a really great retelling of that biblical story and some very powerful songs and animation in that one. So I wanted to mention that. Prince of Egypt, Brenda Chapman's first movie. Andrew, what's your number 4?
I'm going to go with Jennifer Yu Nelson in Kung Fu Panda 2.
Oh.
Okay.
It's a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. And Gary Oldman's Crane is such a unique, fun villain. You know, I totally, or Peacock, I mean, totally loved it. Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Works for me. What is your number 4, Susan?
I don't know if I'm gonna get trumped again. Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird.
You are going to get trumped again. Yes. Sorry.
Course.
We'll let you talk eventually, Susan. It's really probably completely wrong that in a category about directorial debuts by females that we haven't let the female speak yet. And I feel very, very bad.
Aaron. It's all your fault.
So it's fine. This was a tough one for me, just so you know, as far as, because I feel like I have a lot, well, that it will get to it, but it was hard.
Fair enough.
There was a lot of great female director debuts.
Yeah, no, I agree. And what was interesting to me, I'll just say this now, not interesting, kind of sad actually, but so many of them are in the last like 5 years. And it's just a symbol of how bad it's been for so long that women were not getting these chances. Not completely. Certainly there are incredible movies directed by women, but like for directorial debuts, it's really just kind of been in the last 5 years that women have kind of, burst on the scene more. And I'm loving it. So yeah, at my number 3, maybe it'll get trumped again, but this is where I have Regina King's One Night in Miami.
Yeah.
So that'll still be trumped.
All right. Wow.
So Andrew, what do you have at number 3?
Patty Jenkins going with Monster.
Yeah.
Wait, what? What is that?
Charlize Theron, Monster. Do you
Oh,
remember that movie?
Monster. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I was Patty Jenkins in Monster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was her first one.
Wow, I
Yeah.
had no idea. That's
What
that's
a
a tough movie to
happy,
watch.
fun movie. What a
That's right.
just
Yeah. Just a great Friday
baby
night.
town
you know?
frolics, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect date movie, actually.
Yeah.
First date movie though.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah. Susan gets it.
This movie rests on the shoulders of Charlize Theron, given a career best, you know. So
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a rough one for sure, but it's good.
Yeah, it's a great choice. Definitely in my honorable mentions. Susan, what can we trump at number 3?
You might. Olivia Wilde and Booksmart.
I'm not trumping it.
Oh,
All
my
right, let's talk
God.
about it. It's in my honorable mentions, but yeah,
Wow,
we'll talk about
okay.
Booksmart.
Yeah, that was I was really excited. That was the first that movie was like nominated at like the first Critics' Choice Awards that I went to in 2019. Well,
Nice.
it's 2020 in January, but
Mhm.
What a great movie. I am a sucker for high school settings and like teen comedy rom-com
Mhm.
era. I mean, I love rom-coms in general, but especially the background setting of a high school. And I could really relate to these girls of like not partying enough, not doing anything. Like I didn't really party until like I guess college, but it took I was a good kid in high school. Didn't
Yeah.
do the stuff. So just seeing them wanting to get their like final night of senior year, it was just great. But it was also incredible performances by Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever. Did I say it right?
Deaver, I think, but yeah.
Deaver, yeah, something like that. It's just so funny that whole night. That whole night was just hilarious. I'm not usually a huge fan of the that formula where it's like one like I almost call it like a road trip thing where everything goes wrong in one night or something. But I just thought it was really funny and it had really good depth and kind of. I guess it's compared to being like the female version of oh my God, I'm spacing on the
Like Superbad, something like
super
that.
bad, yeah, like that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I just think it was great and it was a wonderful debut from Olivia Wilde.
Very nice. All right, on to our number 2s. I will kick us off. This is where I had Lady Bird, Greta Gerwig's directorial debut. Still trumped, Andrew, or
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen Lady Bird?
I know
Okay.
it's on my list
All
of
right.
shame.
Yeah,
so
no, it's
good.
definitely worth watching. So I had it at number 2. Susan, you had it at number 4. Is that right?
4. Yeah.
Yeah. What an incredible debut from Greta Gerwig. Lady Bird it's funny, it's authentic, it's quirky. Saoirse Ronan is perfect. So yeah, it's definitely one to watch. I really like Lady Bird. Just even mentioning it makes me want to rewatch it tonight. It is that good. So yeah. Anything else to add on Lady Bird, Susan?
I think that might have been the first time I actually saw Beanie Feldstein in a movie. But I completely agree with everything you just said. I thought it was really good. The only reason it wasn't even higher on my list is because I think Little Women is like my favorite movie that Greta Gerwig has done, just as far because I think it was even better than that. But yeah, I just really loved what she did with Saoirse Ronan's character. I mean, she's so obnoxious, but that's like she's encompassing a like teenage girl just like her. Like so
it feels
realistic.
very real. Yeah.
I think that was the first time I saw Timothée Chalamet in a movie too.
Might be.
Yeah. So
nice.
Because that was before I saw it was good.
Andrew, what do you got at number 2?
Got some bad news. Something's just come up. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to run through the rest of my list and then I got to head out. I know I know we're really close to the end and I don't mean to kind of throw.
We got you, man.
All right.
No worries.
Yeah. What's the rest of
Throw
your
a
list?
stick in the gears. So my number 2, Jennifer Kent, The Babadook.
Yep. I had that in my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Great.
It's a great modern horror film. I think it's going to go down as like one of the best modern horrors. And then number 1 is One Night in Miami. I mean, it's just so amazing. It was my favorite film of last year. So It was totally good.
And the only one on all three of our lists, right? That you had it at
Yeah.
number 1, I had it at number 3, and Susan had it at number 5, right? Yeah. So there you
go. Real quick, my buried treasure for this week was going to be Eskimo Cowboy. It's a band.
Okay.
Really interesting, unlike anything I've ever heard. Their choruses are very much like a synth poppy, like old 80s synth pop, but the verses are death metal. And the music videos are something comparable to Lonely Island, and the lyrics are found from like what you would find in like 90s boy band like NSYNC or like Backstreet Boy. It's a band that definitely does not take itself seriously. They're a German band, and from what I've been reading, they are the predicted front runners to win Eurovision this year.
Oh, fun. Yeah. What was their name again?
Eskimo Cowboy.
Okay.
The 3 songs I would recommend are Pump It, which is like like the old 80s, like jazzercise workout videos and stuff like that. Then there's my personal favorite was We Got the Moves. And then their most famous song is called Hypa Hypa, like hyper, but with an A. All the songs are so funny, so catchy. They're good. They're really good. I don't like death metal like Slipknot and stuff. But whenever you have Backstreet Boy lyrics like I love you so much, you are my heart, it's so it makes it tolerable, I guess. Yeah, it's really good. Again, sorry I have to cut out early.
No worries, man.
And I know I've thrown like a whole stick in the gears and everything, but Susan, it's always great seeing you.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of the show. So back to your guys' number 2s.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. See ya. Susan, what do you have at number 2?
My number 2 is from Jillian Robespierre. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. Obvious Child.
I don't think I've seen this one. Mm-mm.
Oh my God, Aaron, you have to watch this movie. It was my favorite film that year. It's I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore, but it stars Jenny Slate and Jake Lacey. I have seen this. Yeah. You have? Did you like it?
Yeah. Yes. No, it's really good. As soon as you said Jenny Slate, I was like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
It deals with abortion, right?
Yes. And which is a touchy subject, obviously.
Yes. Sure.
But I mean, the way it's handled is really, really great in my opinion. It's a romantic comedy essentially. So, I think I just also really like that, that awkward realness, just kind of things like Lady Bird and Booksmart, where there is the comedy, but there's such a realism to it that you're feeling uncomfortable because you can relate to it, just the dialogue. So I remember that when I saw Obvious Child, the romance, I felt like it was one of the most realistic romantic comedy romances that I had seen in a really long time. Like there's no chasing after you at the airport. There's no like speech to say why we need to be together. It has just a really simple, beautiful ending, and they both do an incredible job in it. And it's just down to like even just what she wears, just things that she wears is just not like over the top that you see in a lot of these like romantic comedies. So anyways, but it's also just a really great story.
Nice. All right, on to our number ones. My number 1, this will be a surprise to many, many people, but it is my favorite of these movies. Jennifer Lee's directorial debut was Frozen. My number 1 is Frozen.
Oh my gosh.
I love this movie. I love the music. I love the message. I love the performances. I just think Idina Menzel is absolutely astonishing in this. Yeah, this is really good stuff. I know it was overplayed. I know there are parents who are so sick of this movie because it got played so much, but it is a really quality film, and really one of the first times I felt like Disney really embraced the idea that it didn't have to be, a perfect romance, and that, that there's more to being a woman than finding the perfect man, and it's just a really really beautiful movie. So yeah, Frozen comes in at number one
Oh,
for
I love
me.
that. I think that's a great choice because you're right. That was the first time that it wasn't true love's
Hmm. Yeah,
like wasn't
yeah,
needing to be a man. It could be
hmm,
between two sisters, and
yep,
that was incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one. God, I feel like so many things that you and Andrew said that I didn't even think of were like just honorable mentions, but
Yeah.
I had to pick Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman.
Yeah, I
That
had that
was
in my honorable mentions. Yeah, definitely.
it was just that movie pretty much blew me away last year. I feel like it was kind of hard putting that number one because it just came out last year. I was like, God,
Hmm.
can't I think of something like older? But like you said, it's really just been in like the past 5 years, these movies. But
Hmm.
it was just so good. Yeah. It obviously just with and also the fact that it has that like horror element to it too.
Hmm. It's also kind of satirical. It's a little bit
Mhm.
over the top. There's especially towards the end, it
Yeah.
goes some places that you're just not expecting. And
Mm.
yeah, Promising Young Woman's a great one. Just
Mhm.
barely missed my list. I'm just going to run through some other honorable mentions, unless you have any.
I mean, I wanted to put the Lost Daughter on here because I just think it's
Right.
such a solid, like, and actually incredible directorial debut, just as for Maggie Gyllenhaal. But no, I think I'm just gonna like echo a lot of the things that you guys said that wasn't on my list because
Yeah.
I think all of them were great films.
I just have three left that I want to mention.
Okay.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. We probably need to mention Amy Heckerling's
Wow.
directorial debut. Certainly, we're mentioning Drew Barrymore's directorial debut. Whip It is much
Really?
better than people would expect. It's a
Okay.
really interesting, fun movie. And then I wanted to mention Emma Seligman. Just this year, directed Shiva Baby, which is really
Yeah.
interesting, and also takes the idea of adolescent femalehood and makes it into a horror film,
Yeah.
and some, family cringe, kind of stuff going on there as well. So
Hmm. That's another like awkward. Actually, that probably is the most uncomfortable I felt in a movie in a while.
Shiva Baby is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
no, I
whole
totally get it.
movie, I was just like, "I can't, I'm stressed." Like,
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Totally get it. All right, let's move on to our buried treasure. What is that one thing in any area of pop culture that you want to make sure people know about? Susan, since you're the guest, you will go last.
mhm.
Encounter is a 2021 movie that is really flying under the radar right now. I don't think this movie is great, but I do think it's good enough that you might want to give it a watch. It is definitely a movie that is trying for something, which I give it credit for. I don't know that it completely succeeds the whole way through, but because it's so far kind of under the radar, I thought I would bring it up. Susan, you clearly don't like this movie from your response.
Mm-mm. Oh, no. No, no, no. That almost made my, worst list, but I couldn't do it because the acting was like, Riz Ahmed gave it his all. It's
Hmm.
not his fault that the script was bad.
Yeah.
It was so disappointing of a
I
film.
think I think for me, it's not often that a buried treasure turns into buried trash, but
That's what it was.
but
Yeah.
I think I'm with you, and I know I have movie loving friends that would really enjoy this movie because they
Yes.
would enjoy the high concept of it, and they would enjoy Riz Ahmed, and
Mhm.
they wouldn't get as caught up on some of the stuff that took me out of it. I think this movie thinks it's smarter than it is at points. Like I think
Oh, yes.
like it thinks it's trying to do some sort of switcheroo on you, and it's like, no, this is pretty transparent from the beginning, and then
Mhm.
because of that it's almost harder to take it seriously in some ways.
Yeah.
um but at the same time, I know for sure I would have some friends who would want to see this, so I at least thought I'd mention it. But that is Encounter. So
Fair
yes,
enough. You're right.
and
I
as the chat
I
is saying, one man's buried trash is another man's buried treasure. So there you go.
That's true. That is true. Yeah. No.
What do you
Yeah.
got, Susan, for your buried treasure?
I know I've mentioned Mindy Kaling's Never Have I Ever before on this show,
Mm-hmm.
but she has recently released a new show on HBO Max called The Sex Lives of College Girls. And I binged that on New Year's Day, the whole season. It is phenomenal. It's like, and I mean, she takes it to like, it's more of an R-rated show just because it's
Sure.
free to be. But again, she keeps up with a diverse cast, which is so wonderful for,
Mm-hmm.
I wish when I was younger, I had these shows because I just think it
Sure.
makes the world of difference to see women of color represented
Yeah.
in settings where like when I got to college, oh man, did I feel like insecure, like with
Yeah.
a lot to do with my race.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I don't know what Mindy Kaling is doing for the younger generation of young women. Like it's just, oh, kudos to her.
Do you and Mindy Kaling have similar backgrounds? Have you done much like study on her? And
I mean, she, as far as like ethnicity or just what
yeah,
how she grew up. Well, she's
yeah,
Indian.
maybe both.
I mean, I'm Iranian, but just
Mm-hmm.
being like, I mean, brown, I guess you
Right.
could say.
Yeah.
But she, from what I've heard, I do relate a lot to her. Like she was
Yeah.
a very like into pop culture and things like that. So I think that's why she has been doing her series are very romantic comedy themes. And then, but of course I love that she's doing it with, it's not just like she's just white people too. It's everybody. It's all, it's not just one ethnicity.
We've
It's
had
great.
plenty. It's okay. You don't need to put any white people in there. We're good.
No, I love what she's doing, but it's also, y'all, it's not just about race though. Of course, representation matters, but it's a great script. She
I've heard
has,
great things. I've heard incredible things.
yeah,
I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
this is elevated. And also all four women, all those young ladies, oh my God, are they phenomenal actresses? They are
Mm-hmm.
very talented. I hadn't seen any of them before. One of them is Timothy Chalamet's younger, or I don't know if it's his younger or older sister, but I didn't even know he had a sister. She's my favorite one. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned representation matters. I just saw something today. It was so beautiful. It's kind of going around all the socials, but have you seen the little kid that looks like the kid from Encanto?
Encanto's
Just
so
standing in
great.
front of the TV with a big grin on his face and just looking
Yeah.
exactly like the kid in the picture. It's
Yeah.
just such a beautiful, like, pictures worth 1,000 words example of representation and why it's important. And yeah, it's I will never forget walking out of Black Panther and hearing a couple of my I have a critic friend who brings his kids to some of the previews and stuff and their Black family, and just hearing her say those superheroes look just like me, like
Yeah.
it's just a real thing.
It is.
And as a white male, it is not something that I have ever had to think about or ever had to deal with. And yeah, that's really cool. So that's The Sex Lives of College Girls on HBO Max. Eskimo Cowboy is a band you can check out, and Encounter is a terrible movie that you can check on. I think it's on Amazon, actually. If you want to check it out. Go ahead, go for it. We did it. We did a podcast. Congratulations to everyone involved. Thanks so much for joining us today for Sif Pop. It is part of the Studio DNA Podcast Network. You can find out more about other shows on the network at studiodna.media or by searching Studio DNA in your podcast player. Huge thanks to Andrew for being around today. A big thanks to producer Phil for producing the audio and video show. Thanks to my brother Drew for putting together some of the visuals. And thank you to Susan for being with us today. Susan, where do you want to send people to check out your stuff?
You can go to my Twitter at This Chick's Flicks, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook. And I always say Google me because I'm there.
This Chick's Flicks, the Chicks and the Flicks both ended in X. So This Chick's Flicks with an X at the end of both. Also, thank you to our Sif Pop members for giving monthly to make Sif Pop a real thing. Support starts at $3 a month. You get access to all the bonus episodes, as well as some other fun perks if you want to check that out. You can find out more at patreon.com/SifPop. Lots of ways to connect with the podcast. Feel free to comment, rate, or review at Apple Podcasts, or you can email us feedback@sifpop.com. And finally, if you're having a good time, your movie-loving friends will probably like the show too, so let them know about it and that listening is much easier than making a satire work in 2021. We will be back next week with Scream and maybe Cyrano. I haven't decided on the second movie yet, but we'll be back to talk movies next week. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to those watching. Appreciate you guys. I saw Evan and Mark and Nick all jump in on the comments, and I know from the numbers that there are even more watching. So thank you for that. Appreciate that. We're going to get going, and we will catch you on the next one. I think we should be back to Saturday mornings for a while, starting next week.
What made y'all do Friday? I was really surprised.
I'm going to out of town.
Oh, you're leaving tomorrow. That's yeah. We would have left tomorrow too. That would have been
correct.
Our game.
So so we're heading to LA, and
are you coming back Monday?
A little bit early. Yes, coming back on Monday. So yeah, I think that's it. So
nice. Are you doing anything the video? In LA?
Yeah. I think we'll do a few things. Hang out and maybe go to a restaurant, that kind of stuff. But for our live chat, just want to say love you guys, and we will catch you next time.